minutes late, he can just come on in and get started again. Um, roll call, everybody's here, but Spencer, he'll be in just a few minutes. Move on to approval of the minutes.
I'd like to move approval.
Approval, second, Tom? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passed. If there's no objection, we're gonna move item 6A up to this point so that the new director can move on. He's got appointment in Eau Claire, so if no objections to you guys, any of the board members? Okay, we'll hear from Dan. You want to?
Yep.
You want to introduce him or yeah?
Yeah, well, Adam Akala,
Yes,
the new executive director of, is it Dunn County?
it's both Dunn County Economic Development as well as Greater Menominee Economic Development Corporation.
His business card the title will fill the whole card.
Yes, yep.
So.
How do you spell your last name?
ACCOLA.
Oh,
Yeah, we've been talking about Adam coming for a while. So I believe he just started last week, and so he's here to give a little intro.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Adam Akala, and I am the new Director of Economic Development for Greater Dunn County. It's a shared position between the Greater Menominee Development Corporation, the Dunn County Economic Development Corporation, my employer, UW Stout, the Stout Technology and Business Park, and the City of Menominee. So those are kind of the 5 entities that I answer to on an oversight committee that has formed this position and formed the collaboration to make this possible. So I'm really excited to be here. I am a native of Mondovi, Wisconsin, so a rural community just south of here, and competed against and worked with students from the Boyceville, Colfax, and Elk Mound school districts as part of the old Dunn St. Croix sports conference. So excited to be doing work here in Dunn County. I graduated from UW Eau Claire in 2016 with a degree in vocal music and minors in Spanish and the health professions and Latin American studies. And so naturally that has led me to a career in economic development. I, in 2018, was on the inaugural team for Pablo Center at the Confluence in Eau Claire, getting the front of house and patron-facing operations up and off the ground, including their bars, their box office, and their usher corps. After a year at Pablo Center and giving them a really solid foundation in the front of house, I moved on to CoLab, which is a co-working space now known as the Coven Eau Claire, primarily centered around startups and entrepreneurs in the Chippewa Valley. And through that work, I established an entrepreneurial hub connecting the resources that already existed within the Chippewa Valley, as well as giving a foothold to organizations out of the Milwaukee and Madison areas that traditionally don't make their way up this far north. And so it was a really big point of mine to make sure that we had those statewide organizations with a foothold in Eau Claire and giving our entrepreneurs solid access to the resources that exist statewide. So I'm excited to be here in Dunn County, focusing primarily in 3 areas: business attraction and investment, business retention and expansion, and startups and entrepreneurship. And so I'm really excited to be driving this work here in Dunn County and looking forward to working with this committee and as well as the other entities that I'm answering to across the county. So I'll be attending these meetings probably about quarterly and giving any updates that are deemed necessary. And if there's anything that I can do for any of you on this committee, feel free to reach out. My email is accola, that's ACCOLA, at uwstout.edu. I will have business cards hopefully by the next meeting that I attend. So thank you all.
any questions for him?
There are a lot of us, though. Yes.
Looking forward to working with you. Thank you. All right, we'll move back up to extension staff reports. Okay, Kristen?
All right. Hello. Good to see you all. in person this time. So thank you and appreciate your patience. Just a quick update. Livestock position is posted and closes on the 29th. We are going to be screening the following week, and we have preliminary interviews scheduled week and a half after that. And then I'll be scheduling final interviews. I would invite the committee, anyone from the committee who'd like to attend that and assist in the hiring of that position. I'll be getting that date out, so please just let me know if you'd like to attend that and be a part of the hiring committee for the final interviews. So as soon as I have that information, I'll let you know. Other than that, I think office has been doing great. We were at Farm Tech Days last week. A number of the staff here also joined to help out. Had a great booth, a couple booths, and just strong programming through the summer. So, any questions?
If you could shoot an email when you finally get the open date, so we know we can put in our calendars.
I will do that.
Yeah,
Yep,
thank you.
I will absolutely do that. The interviews, finals will probably be held in Eau Claire, but we may change that depending on the candidate pool, depending on where they're coming from.
Any questions for Kristen? Larry, you
Okay,
want-
Larry?
Thank you for my lead in. I didn't get a chance to finish everything at county board meeting the other night, and I wasn't going to do this. But they had a distinguished service member award ceremony, and where they, I see 10 of these kids got a $400 check from the 4-H Leaders Council or Federation. But I wish you'd just allow me a few minutes to just mention these kids' names and what their intentions are for the future, because, you know, they are our crop, right? I mean, we work really hard to push kids in a direction that we all can be proud of. So, first one is Alexis Schlew, and her future plans are to attend University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire, to major in nursing and becoming a nurse practitioner. There's a positive. Then we have Annie Bayer. Her future plans to attend UW-Madison for a degree in business management. These are all kids that have been in 4-H for a number of years. Then my cousin, Chloe Doomer. Her plans are going to UW River Falls and major in ag business. Caleb Gilbertson, whose family hosted the dairy breakfast this summer, he plans to attend Fox Valley Tech and return to my family farm after completion of my degree. Joshua Quilling. Never met a Quilling I didn't like. Future plans. Possibly taking some online classes and working until I figure out what I would like to do. Gracie Casper. Caspers are very active family and a lot of different events. And her future plans is to attend CVTC for their dental assistant and dental hygienist program. She could work on me any day because I trust the Caspers. Cole Smisky, his future plans are like this guy, working. Okay. Harrison Bullard, future plans to attend CVTC in the fall, taking some generals and marketing classes or two. After that, I plan to transfer to a different college for 4-year degree to finish my 4-year degree. Just got a couple more. Austin McCone, furthering my education in a business management degree, plan to start my own business in the future. Here's one of your guys. Okay. Ryan Preisel, attending CVTC for business management. Couple more here. Edward Wenzel, I plan to attend UW Stout in the fall to double major in animation and industrial design. There's a guy that's looking forward. Ashley Strand, going to University of Wisconsin, La Crosse for accounting degree. And the last guy, Brian Steyer, and I think he's part of the Alpha Lawnstire families. I'll be attending UW-Madison in the fall to pursue a degree in political science or legal studies, and I'm hoping to attend law school after my undergraduate degree. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the update, Larry. 4-H is always good. They've been having a good program.
Good.
Any questions for Larry on any of these subjects? All right, we'll move on to the written updates. Any questions for the staff? I know, Margaret, you're online, aren't you? Let's see. Looks like you are.
Yep, I am.
This could go to you and Jerry, I guess, because one's agriculture, one, and you talked about pollinators. I've noticed this year I have no bees on my place hardly at all. Is the pollinating getting too widespread on the farming side of it, or is it? I mean, they need the bees, but yet they're wiping them out.
Well, bees do suffer from a lot of issues, but I think too this spring, because of the cold, wet weather we've been having, that can reduce bee activity. They won't come out in the rain, and most bees need it at least in the 60s or 70s to be active, except for bumblebees. They can come out much colder weather. So that could be part of it. Certainly, you know, we always have concerns about habitat loss and pesticide use and so forth. But I know with monarchs too, because of the drought last year, a lot of monarchs didn't make it down to Mexico last year. So they weren't expecting, they were expecting lower numbers of those this year as well. So the weather can have a lot to do with it.
Jerry, got anything to add, or is that pretty much good?
Yeah, I think Margaret summed it up. I think, you know, as some of the, she mentioned pesticide use, some of the seeds that we now use in agriculture, especially corn and soybeans, some of that gets treated with an insecticide. And because of the new planters that have an air system behind them, those planters get lifted out of the ground. There can be a puff of that insecticide that tends to get airborne. Not a lot, but you know, if it's along edges of roads or woods that some of that insecticide may flutter into, that can be an issue. But we've seen an increase in seed treatments, specifically some of the insecticides, which could be an issue, especially isolated issues. But I think, like Margaret said, it's probably more weather related this year because we were so wet and cold.
Thank you, guys. That was, I just noticed that at my place. I mean, they're flying over spraying, I don't know, corn all the time, but just curious on that. So thank you for your note there. Any questions, Larry?
Two things. Number one, kudos to Margaret for the fine job out here identifying the plants. You did that, right? Or who did the plants around the courthouse?
Well, that was a collaborative effort. And so Melissa here too, very big part of getting that native garden going. And we did finally get some labels out there so people can now, the idea is to use it as a demonstration garden. So to go out and meander through and see what's what. So we're very excited to have the new labels out there, and we'll get some brochures out there as well. And then we also had help from other extension staff as well as facilities, big partner in that, and also Dunn County Master Gardener. So yeah, but thank you.
Yeah, no, it looks really good. And then the comment on the pollinators, I guess I always judge how the apple trees are pollinated, and I've got a bumper crop of small apples because of probably cold weather. And I don't have a lot of high-tech farm stuff, but I got guys all around me that run 60-foot planters and grow great corn and a lot of it. So at my place anyway, the pollinators, I don't see them like I used to see them on the trees, but if there's apples there, there had to be a pollinator. So looking good in that respect. And the plants are labeled and look super.
Thank you, Larry. Any questions for anybody else on the staff? Tom?
Yeah, just really happy to note that Garrett had gone to the housing conference. And as you know, you talked to Luis, I'm sure, but I know I and other people are interested in developing or some kind of organizing strategy around cooperative housing and engaging maybe a task force in the county that could do that. And it would be great to have you be part of that. So really happy to see you did that work.
Any further questions for staff? Looks like we'll move on. We have Louise.
One of each of these and then pass them back to me and I'll pass them that way.
Gotcha.
Good evening. I'm passing around two handouts. These did not make it into the packet because I just got them. And the one that I sent to Melissa before the packet went out didn't end up in because of some sort of technical glitch. But in any case, I thought I could go old school and give them to you on paper. I am not doing a PowerPoint tonight. I have no slide deck. I have a single 3x5 note card with a couple points I'd like to make, and then I'm going to clear out of here so you can get through your meeting in good time. So it is my turn to explain what the heck I'm doing as I report back to you. My name is Luisa Gerasimo. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Human Development and Relationships Educator, specifically in family engagement and relationships. So I work with an institute full of fantastic colleagues, and we are offering between 50 and 70 online classes to our statewide audiences, and Dunn County is one of the top consumers in the state. We are number 4 and apparently might be number 3 in this next set of statistics for the number, just the raw number of our families that are taking family education classes. So to me, that says that our families are eager to learn more, and I have a lot of wonderful colleagues that we cooperate with so that I don't have to do it all by myself and I don't have to be an expert in everything, which is a good thing because it's hard to be an expert in everything. But I am continuing to teach the court-ordered, Dunn County court-ordered Parents Forever classes. Every other month I offer that in person. Very often I don't get enough people to offer it. Every other month we offer it online, statewide, and we have, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 people taking it. And I do that in conjunction with a colleague in Barron County. I also am offering Raising a Thinking Child with my colleague in Barron County and one in Dane County. So that's a statewide 6-week course for people who have 4 to 8-year-olds, so for little kids. And if you remember back, any of you who are parents, to when you had the preschoolers and early elementary school kids, you remember that it's tough. Kids can be pretty challenging, and we teach parents to ask their children questions instead of telling them what to do. So we're trying to create a thinking child before they get to elementary school and drive their teachers crazy. Right, Zach? Also working on We Cope, which is not in my institute, but it's a health and well-being offering. And I offered that statewide in conjunction with colleagues, and then I'm offering it in person at the jail. I did one round with women, and in October we'll be doing men and possibly women again. That is also a 6-week course, so it's a pretty significant outlay of time and energy, but we have had really good results with that. People saying that they've changed their lives because they changed kind of their ability to be calm and to think about things. And especially for our populations that are in jail, a lot of people in jail are there for a lot of different reasons. And just want to remind you that a lot of the people in our Dunn County Jail are not actually convicted of a crime. They're waiting for their date in court, but they don't have money to pay their bond. So what we mostly have, a lot of in my classes, are poor people who haven't had the opportunities that a lot of us have had for education. So getting people to think about themselves and how they react to things in their lives is actually, I think, a really urgent and very important preventative as people, hey, they're here for X number of weeks and then they're back out on the streets, right? So we want people to make better decisions for themselves and their families. And working in the area of mental health in mindfulness is actually, it's low-hanging fruit. So I'm really enjoying those courses. Also working with resilient co-parenting. In November, I'm teaching a statewide class with a colleague on family traditions and routines, which, and again, any of you who have had the good luck to have a good family, maybe you've taken for granted routines, bedtime stories, dinner at the table, taking walks together, holidays with grandma. Those routines are really important for children as they become young adults and move out into the world. So I'm really excited about being able to offer it. It's in November, so it's right kind of before the holiday rush. Last year we offered it kind of right during the holiday rush, and I think it's better that we've moved it up and we can emphasize the routines as much as developing new traditions, especially for parents who are co-parenting, and that's the area that it's advertised as. So people who have split up and now maybe have children in multiple households or have combined with stepkids. I just recently found out that we have a gap in our state for help with raising Wisconsin's children, which is an important conference that we've been offering every year for 2 years, very well attended. So I'm on the statewide team for that. Also on the statewide team for Just-in-Time Parenting, which is a month-by-month newsletter for prenatal through preschool parents, no advertising. And we have 15 extension departments across the United States cooperating on that. So it is top notch. We don't sell people a bunch of baloney. We just tell them, what they need to know about the ages and stages for their kids, and maybe some of the new research that's come out about how we parent, or even physical things like which way do you put your kid in a crib? There's a lot of new things out there, and people are sharing them with their childcare providers and also with their grandparents, because I think a lot of people in our childcare desert, our grandparents are helping with raising children. And then, so that's my half, the statewide stuff. Locally, I'm working on some coalitions and alliances, and I just wanted to mention that United Way successfully merged, and we are offering a day of caring on October 10th. And I'm working on several teams with that, including our Dunn County Wellness Ambassadors and our HR department here, and the county itself is helping sponsor that day of caring. And Bill's Distributing has already come online as a sponsor, so they're going to host our breakfast on the 10th. Any of you want to sign up to volunteer, you could maybe do like, CRTC provides labor for a few hours, and we'll go clean up some of our neighbors down here. Our older folks need help with putting their gardens to bed, or we have some downtown benches that need painting, things like that, roadside cleanup, river cleanup. I'm very excited about that coming together. It's been quite a lot of years since United Way has been able to offer a day of caring here. Recently, we wrapped up Health Done Right, and we have come up with a what we think are the most urgent and emerging problems facing Dunn County citizens as far as health goes. Childcare was number 1, housing was number 5, and the 3 in the middle have to do with health issues, including access to health care and concern about alcohol abuse and mental health. Garrett and I are eager to work on both childcare and housing and come at it with maybe being able to provide some resources and help our community tap into what's available and some interesting models that are out there. And then the Housing Action Team, which came out of Health Done Right, I have co-led that now for over a year with Paula Winter, our Health and Human Services Director. And we are just starting back up again as a merged group, the county work group that came out of Chris Corpola and county board supervisors and county employees working on the housing issue. Our sub-work group on advocacy and education, which included Tom here, we recently merged with the Housing Action Team so that we're not wasting time. We can get all on the same page. So we're kind of in a restart mode there and eager to see what comes out of it. But I would like to say that it was very heartwarming to see people who had been concerned about housing get up and give their public comments, and to see the Board of Supervisors come together on July 31st to unanimously pass the accessory dwelling unit resolution amendment. I don't know what that was called. Ordinance. Thank you. Technical term, ordinance. It was really interesting process, and hearing some of those stories was really awesome and amazing. And in this era where people seem to like to yell at each other a lot and not come to any kind of like resolution or conclusion, I walked out of that meeting so high I could not go to sleep that night, because I was like, look at these county county board supervisors, they all got together and they did something which I think will help people in the future, probably for decades to come. So any questions for me?
I got a what if question.
Go for it, Larry.
Okay, as you can imagine, in my household, I hear a lot of things about uh, custody of children and time and parents acting out and all this kind of stuff. And I know that we've had in the past a book reading time at the jail. So if a parent is in the jail, they don't have to read the book wearing orange jumpsuit, right?
Correct. We have blue polo shirts.
Okay. Here's a harder one. It's so much contention over whose time it is, whose week it is, when we switch, and what school they go to and everything like that. So if you have a parent that happens to be in jail during the time and placement is supposed to be kids with them. Is there any recourse that the courts could look to in that if the week that you're supposed to have your kid, you spend it in the Dunn County Jail, that there could be some flexibility on placements? Yeah,
that's probably not in my area to answer, Larry. I'm not, I don't work with the courts that closely to be able to answer that. I will say that typically when somebody is arrested and they have shared custody or they are the main custodian of that child, that is something that the courts will order, and Dunn County Human Services will, Child Protective Services will take over. There might be foster care involved if a family member can't step in to take care of that child. So when I do the Making Reading Memories program, I have to get permission from whoever is physically taking care of that child. So I talk to a lot of grandparents and aunties and
Right.
Also our social workers to get permission, because it has to be in the best interest of the child. So I don't think that you get your time back, but I that is a guess, not an actual answer. So I think you would have to call our clerk of court, Katie Shalley, and ask her that question. She'd probably be able to tell you.
Maybe I just call the judge and ask him.
There you go. If you're friends with judges, you
Yeah,
call in,
real friends
call in
with
and
judges.
ask. There you go.
Well, it's such a big deal on this placement thing, their
Right.
time.
Right. It is.
And-
It's really important.
And,
And
yeah, people are knuckleheads and they end up
can I quote you on that?
not being able to fulfill their obligation to their kid.
Right.
And if there's anything that we can do to push that in a direction, we should. That was okay. I got all I
Yeah,
needed.
I think if I can just get the last word in here, which is probably kind of rude of me as a guest, but I will say that Dunn County, like all counties, is squeezed for resources, squeezed for time. We have awesome county workers. We have a great board of supervisors. But one area that we should be thinking about is down the road, what is happening to the people who are infants right now? So the babies that are in utero and the babies who are being born in Dunn County, we have, what did I say we were having per year born? 400, something like that. 400 residents born in Dunn County per year. The decisions that we make now, like if we decide to ignore the fact that we're having problems with housing and childcare, we're going to have a lot more people in the Dunn County Jail who are unable to really be good parents because they didn't experience the safety and security of having a home, and people who are well-trained and reliably there every day to care for them in childcare. And you can't get back those first months, some say birth to 3, but for attachment, that first year when babies don't talk, but they are making eye contact and needing a lot of physical reassurance and care. If we parse them to a childcare center and that childcare center has different people every couple weeks, somebody quits, there's a new person hired, babies have a hard time making that bond, and forming a bond with trustworthy adults is the single key thing that children need to do early, and we can't fix it later. There's a lot of research about that. So when we pass off that child who hasn't been able to bond well with adults because their parents are working or it's a single family and there's not a lot of adult time at home, and then in childcare, they don't get consistent, loving, careful care. When we send them to elementary school, they're already at a serious disadvantage. And when I look at the background of the parents that I'm working with in jail, they haven't had parenting. So it's not surprising to me that they're there, because if you don't have your basic needs met, it's hard to be a good citizen. So I would just put my plea out there is it is great to be trying to work on services and try and help our adult population. But if we're not taking care of the babies, 20 years from now, we're going to pay the price for that. And the price tag is a heck of a lot bigger than doing early childhood education or doing visitors with our public health people, going into houses to help people early on, or making sure that people have a house over their, roof over their head. We're going to pay for that. And it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars per person to try and fix something later. Just like with your car, if you let it go without oil and it plunks you out on the side of the road and it's on fire, you just screwed your car entirely and you could have put a quart of oil in it. I'm just arguing for all of you who sit on different committees, be thinking about the infants and the parents of those infants and what they're facing in terms of their daily needs. They can't be there for their baby. We're going to be in big trouble as a society. So that's my last word. That took me 3 minutes. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Louisa. Good report.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Move on to item 6. We've already done A, so we'll move to 6B, Dunn County Communications.
Yep. All right. So continue to work with Doug Mell to release press releases and work on some things. So I think since we met last, we released something about the highway department has a safety kind of survey out that's a collaboration with some neighboring counties. Got picked up quite a bit by the media as we released that, so we're happy about that. I know Dustin got plenty of great feedback, so it's fun, but also very helpful. I mean, I think there's a lot of things where we hear about things, but to actually be able to pull together that data and share it with the state as we advocate for projects will be very helpful for not just the county, not just our county, but other counties in the city will be able to take advantage of that. A lot of the feedback has actually been related more towards city and state roads, but obviously with the county, we're focusing on the county roads. So that was great to get that picked up. We also released something on the housing toolkit that was put together by West Central Wisconsin Regional Planning. They just need a shorter name. And so that was Dunn County and one of the P's, Pierce or Pepin, or one of those, or a Polk. One of the P counties were released, and I know they're trying to release the rest of the counties here soon, but that was another story that we had released, and we are currently working on one with about the ADUs, the passing of the ADU ordinance. So that's kind of the work that's been going on. Like I say, we continue to see good results in our collaboration with Doug Mell to be able to get the word out about all the good things that are happening. And Larry, I actually wrote down your 4-H service award thing, because I mean that's exactly the kind of stuff that we're looking to make sure that gets out. So I'm going to steal that pamphlet from you before we leave. So, all right. So. So, all right. Did I have there?
Any questions for Dan? Oh, sorry. Any questions for Dan on communications? All right, we'll move on to broadband.
I'm gonna roll through these things.
Yeah, I'll just roll.
This is
right
they should just retitle the agenda the Dan Show, right? I don't have to do economic development anymore, though, right? So, So broadband discussion, I believe when we met the last time, the BEAD Volume 2 had just been announced like the day or the day before we met. So that is in the process of internet service providers submitting a letter of intent to the Public Service Commission. So they're going to be doing this grant round a little bit different than all the grants that they had done before, where in the past it was, hey, grants are open. And just tell us what you want to do. They're now going through the step right now where service providers have to go out and submit a lot of the same stuff they did in the past that just says that we are a viable internet service provider. We are willing to kind of meet all of these requirements that are going to be a part of this grant process. And then they will get theoretically approved by the Public Service Commission to be able to apply for the grants as the next kind of phase of that goes through. In that next phase, the Public Service Commission now is creating service areas. So they're going through the map that had been created and identifying little blobs of areas that need to be covered. And once they have identified all of that, then the service providers that have submitted their letter of intent will be able to bid on those particular areas throughout the state, in our case, throughout the county. And then they have some additional steps as they bid on those certain areas of working with the towns and working with the county and all sorts of other criteria that they'll have to meet in order to have the winning bid in order to move forward with that. So a little bit of a different process as that goes forward. So currently in the phase of service providers submitting their letter of intent while the Public Service Commission creates those service areas. And the committee hasn't met, where I have to get that scheduled now that this is done. So we'll get the committee ready to go. And then a lot of that is going to be working with service providers, because as they do make those bids on those service areas, that's where Dunn County will need to pass a resolution approving those, and that will result in 7 points for their grant submission. The only way they can get that is by a county board resolution. So we have control over. So you talk about two different providers bidding on that same area. One of them that the county does a resolution for, and one that they don't, that's a 7-point differential that happens right there. So, so a lot of control that we have as a group in order to do that.
So if there are months when the county board do not meet, what happens then? I mean, you can't wait 60 days to have this approved. I mean, yes.
Right. So we'll have to move fast. Luckily, there's 2 months that the board doesn't meet. One of them is this month. Even though we're meeting, it's the budget workshop, but and the other one is December. So so I think as long as we get through those, we should be okay with that. But I think from so the broadband committee can send things directly to executive and to the board. So the broadband committee itself we can adjust our schedule in order to be able to look at those awards, but we will be reaching out to the service providers in our area to let them know. So the service areas aren't released, and the time frame for submitting all of that is also not released. But once we know that time frame when those things need to be submitted, we'll be able to go to the service providers and say, we will need your information by this day in order to get that on the county board agenda prior to that. They're not going to be able to procrastinate. And I'm sure they're working on things and have a pretty good idea of that, but it is certainly going to move up the timeline and require our service providers to kind of jump.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Will there be matching, financial match as part of the criteria?
Financial match will be a part of the criteria. It's realistically a lower, it's 20,
Yeah.
20%, I believe is what they're talking about as like the minimum. But I think as the awards go and as they have in the past, the higher amount of match you have, the better. There is supposed to be areas, and I'm not sure if they're going to identify those with the service areas or if that's something that people making bids on those areas are going to be able to do to identify them as a, I can't remember the terminology, but essentially a very rural,
No, okay.
area. My understanding of what I think the Public Service Commission is going to try to do with service areas is match a kind of a less dense area with a more dense area, so they wouldn't, Menominey's kind of covered, but I mean, they may draw a circle that includes part of
Sure.
a village that does that. So it makes it a little bit more worth it on one portion of it, whereas it's a little bit more of a loser on the other, so that you can balance that out or. do that.
And
So-
then just curious about whether what the status of it, of any assistance for access is for low-income families. Is that still on the table?
I was going to talk about that on letter
Oh.
E.
Okay, all right. I
So,
can wait, that's
yeah.
fine.
Yep.
And then I had one other question. What was it? Oh, yeah. Do you remember if have we done any public communication about all of the broadband destruction that's happened in Dunn County?
We did a release when the 4 awards
Okay, the
were
most recent one?
were the most recent awards, of which those are all shovels in the ground right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So,
I mean, it's a pretty amazing story that the fact that, okay, this program happened and then now we have access that we never dreamed we would have 4 years ago. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
I think it's one of those things that it's really fun to look at the map. But the map shows us where funding is and where broadband is going to go. I think a lot of those areas are still not necessarily like at a house right now.
Right.
Oh,
So,
but
yeah.
but no, we're in a spot, and I don't know if I've shared the maps here before. There's about 3 spots in Dunn County that are not covered right now. Big, yeah, and like circles, as you talk about those service areas that you go in, I could draw you about 3 circles that would fill in the county. And most of them have already been submitted
Yeah.
to the public. So our providers know about them already. So I'm very optimistic that we could get to 100% coverage in the county pretty, I shouldn't say easily, but no, you're right. I mean, it's very, yeah. Yeah, because I think those 4 awards, so they have been working on that, but I think we probably won't see till maybe at the beginning of next spring where they'll start connecting the houses. They're doing a lot of the backbone work right now, and then next summer is where they'll get that out to the houses. And that's, as we've released them before, people are like, oh, how come you don't work on this area? I was like, actually, it's coming already. They're working on it. So, yeah, but we're in a good spot.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So it seems like there's some companies that are kind of popping up to sort of fill the need to get this work done and using the money. Like what kind of oversight is the PSC doing to ensure that these companies are doing a good job with the money that they're being provided with?
So I talked about that letter of intent, and
yeah,
I
right.
think that's kind of the big piece right now is, they're going to be looking at the history of projects and how well you've done in completing projects. For us in Dunn County, we are spoiled with cooperatives that are covering most of the county to be able to do that work. And I think in general, the cooperatives have essentially just through their nature are a reliable group to be able to get that work done and have done that. They will take awards away and have taken awards away. There was some, federal award taken away from a large internet service provider,
Okay.
not in Dunn County, but in the area, Clark County, but areas throughout the country where they haven't done that. And I think I spoke. There was a large company that had received an award in Dunn County that had also been taken away. We haven't seen it in Dunn County with any one of the providers that has received a grant in Dunn County. Everything has been completed within the time frame. I think every one of them would beat their time frame by a year. And that's part of the process of creating that. They make it a safe one, but yeah.
That's
So
good to hear. I've been kind of hearing some rumblings, like rumors and some distrust happening, so.
yeah, and if you hear some of those types of things, there are some companies out there, and it's typically in some of the more rural northeast Wisconsin areas that have different providers and some controversy that has happened. And I guess I don't really take an opinion on it one way or another, but it's I guess I think those companies have all the greatest intentions of being able to provide coverage. There's questions about a lot of them are fixed point wireless, they call them, providers, that there's questions about some of the longevity or, yes, this meets the need now, but will it 5 years from now? So is it worth putting that money in there? In Dunn County, everything that has been done has been buried fiber, which is considered to be the gold standard of what can be done right now, and theoretically have that longevity. So again, kind of spoiled.
Right.
And buried fiber is also the priority of the Public Service Commission. I didn't get into the whole thing with the bidding, but the first level of bidding is bidding on putting fiber in. And if they determine that the costs of doing that are too much, then they move down and they include the other providers that would be providing a fixed point wireless or some other type of technology to be able to meet those needs. So I don't see that as being a problem in Dunn County, but the rest of the state will see that.
Thank you.
We're on tourism.
Sure. Don't have a whole lot of an update on tourism. We'll be working with the Explore Menominee in order to get the website taken care of. But there's been no work on it at this moment.
Okay, we'll move on then to the legislative agenda. Has anybody got any ideas from past or present? Dan, you had something you want to bring up?
Yeah, so I was going to let you know the Community Resources and Tourism has 2 items that are on the legislative agenda, pretty vaguely written, and that is to support the allocation of state funds to encourage and develop rural and agricultural tourism. And the second one is continued support for increased funding for rural broadband expansion. So a couple of the areas that had been a focus, and the last 2 topics that I talked about. So, but the one thing that I did want to bring up is related to broadband. And I received an email from the National Association of Counties, NACO, if you're familiar with it. And it was an outreach to reach out to your federal representatives to advocate for it says the authorization, but the reauthorization of the Affordable Connectivity Program. If you're familiar with that program, what it did was provided a up to $30 discount off of internet bills for anybody who qualified for free and reduced lunch. There's a list of of items. I think it was well known as being really easy to identify people who qualified because it was already typically people who are going in to do something. If you qualified for free and reduced lunches, the schools already knew everybody who was qualified for it and could easily do that. That worked by the money went direct to the service providers. So those people received a bill from their service provider that was $30 less than somebody else. It was, they didn't have to apply for a rebate. They didn't have to do anything. All they had to do is kind of tell the service provider, you know, give me a $30 discount, and it all happened. Funding for that ran out in May of 2024 and had not been reestablished. So just wanted to put that out there. One of the big pillars that we talk about from broadband is we can get fiber in the ground for anybody, but you have to be able to afford $100 a month. So if you can make that $70 a month, it becomes a lot more used. It makes broadband more accessible to everyone because the more people who use broadband, the more cost effective it is for those providers to be able to provide it. So to be able to encourage the adoption of broadband from that aspect also increases access to broadband. So kind of two birds, one stone thing. So you're the politicians. I just threw that out there.
So I think that'd be if it was done in the past, I think that's a great idea to go after it again. What does the committee think?
I was just actually, I'm working on getting my ham license, but I was reading through the FCC's website and stumbled upon the statement regarding the that program losing funds, and I know it has been helpful for me, and I know that it would be helpful for a lot more families and people who need.
So the resolution would be for us to support reauthorization of that program, and you could put the name of the program in there.
Yeah,
So I'd make that motion.
it's not an action item, so we
I
can.
Oh,
There was more of a discussion, and if we
Oh.
need something, we'll put on an action item for next month. It
Yeah,
has to
okay,
be in by
that's fine.
October, so yeah.
yeah, then we get something more, okay.
So if you have something more to add, we can do them all at once, and then, did you had something last month you brought up, or last meeting?
Well, if I did, I totally forgot about it, so it must have been taken care of,
Yeah.
or I'm getting old.
No.
But, yeah, so maybe, this is not a big urgency to get this completed. Okay, so yeah, if you maybe put it back on the agenda for.
For an action item, Melissa, yeah.
Thanks, Bob.
And anything else that needs to be added, we could add at that time.
Yeah.
If you think of something else, because there'll be an action item at that time. Any further discussion? Any more ideas? Larry?
I have no idea how to achieve what I'm talking about, but I think university extension works best when it's person to person or person to group. I think they've had a little bit of sea change in that their educators are most effective in the classroom. And I think their educators are more effective meeting with people and not asking people to come and meet with them. Now, I went to an extension program this spring that on grain marketing and different things, and Jerry Clark gave it. And so, you know, I'm getting this information right from a University of Wisconsin faculty, big deal. I don't even know what his thing is. But they had a hard time attracting 2 or 3 people to come to the classroom and see the presentation from Dr. Clark. Now, I don't know I don't know how that information can be disseminated, but it's been disseminated in years past by extension agents that met with groups of people, whether you are, they're looking for somebody to talk about to whatever it might be at a Farm Bureau meeting or 4-H Leaders Federation meeting or Corn Growers Association or something like that. But I was disappointed that when you offer the kind of knowledge that was given out to farmers and you get nice red pencils and you get a little red bag and all those kind of stuff that extension's really good at. But you're speaking to the choir. So, I mean, to me, if an ag extension agent went to a high school FFA class and talked about what extension offers to them in knowledge in livestock or just anything, to me that's
And,
very old school,
yeah.
but it's the way I roll.
Excuse me, Larry, but we're still on the legislative agenda. Is this anything to do with that at all, or you're just?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
you're trying
would-
to get it on the,
No, I would, that's what I'm saying is I'm trying to get, I wish we had a legislative agenda item that says Dunn County supports, university extension, programming other than the classroom. So that's what I'm trying to say. So I don't know. So like I said, I have no idea how to move forward with that. But the legislature, says this is how we're gonna spend our money. So that, I hate to be long on that, but I don't know how else to bring forward a change in direction. Except through the
Nice.
legislature.
yeah, I was wondering if UW Extension could come up with an agenda item for that. We could put it on there, but I don't know how you could do that.
Well, I'm probably needs more clarification. I mean, being in the classroom or in Jerry's case, I don't know where that was. That's just one mode of way that we bring out education. Sometimes we might get a full house, sometimes we get 2 or 3 people. And then educators typically go back and say, okay, what can we change? Was it time of year? Were farmers out in the, and so there's always an evaluation that's done that is assessed after. But that's just one form of communication and one form of teaching that we do. Louisa mentioned, if you look at here, you got the online offerings now so that it meets people where they're at. Jerry does a lot of, in those situations, he does a lot of field days where he's out in the field, working with farmers out in the field. They're in the communities, at the libraries, in the classrooms. So, I guess, Larry, I would need more clarification in terms of, what
Well-
you'd be looking for. I'm sorry that particular time, there might not have been a big turnout. But typically with Jerry's classes, they are rather large, and there is a turnout. I don't know if Jerry wants to speak to that or if he knows what that was about, but,
But okay, here's my point. In the past, university extension agents have had a vital role in farm tech, or not, you had a booth at Farm Technology Days, but I mean, like at the dairy breakfast. And they're no longer apparently part of their job description to do that type of thing.
Jerry, I believe was at the dairy breakfast.
At the dairy breakfast, planning the dairy breakfast, being part of the county committee that sets it up, or being part of Farm Progress Days committee, not just a vendor at Farm Progress Days, but part of the executive committee that puts together Farm Progress Days and meets with farmers around the county. They get to know the extension agent, where if you're just walking through Farm Progress Days, well, there's extension. How you doing, guys? You know, right on through. But if you were part of the organization of that, I mean, we had great support this year at the, again, going back to the Dunn County Fair of Extension. And I'm not critical of how it was done before. I'm just saying I'm very happy the way it went this year, because the University Extension person was a big function of the fair, and they had put, I mean, well, who am I to tell the University Extension what to do? I'm just a guy.
Well,
But I like seeing the guy whose salary I'm working on also working with me.
yes, and there's no mandates from the UW that precludes anyone from, any of our educators from being involved or engaged.
Okay.
And so, like Jerry and Jean Walsh actually were instrumental in the planning and working with the community in Chippewa Falls to bring together Farm Tech Days.
Okay.
Zach is, he supports the fair board. These events are not ours. Like the dairy breakfast is not an extension event. And so, we shouldn't be running those, but we certainly are there at the table for the expertise or for, whatever that might look like. It just depends on what the event is, which would depend on what our role would be. And if we have an educator that is supported in that area.
Right.
And so, there's nothing that really precludes our educators, from being involved or engaged in other events that,
I
in
have
the community.
I have just seen a change in the direction from when Extension lost its chancellor and became part of UW-Madison. Yeah, I thought when University of Wisconsin had its own chancellor, or Extension had its own chancellor, that we were not in such lockstep with so I'm getting really deep into here, but
Yeah.
I just wish that Dunn County could have a resolution that says we support University Extension, hands-on. I mean, Louisa, I mean, she's
She's in the jails.
she does her stuff, and you can't do it online. You got to do it talking to people.
But Larry, people don't sign up when I offer it in person. That's the scary part.
I
agree
know.
with you. I love in-person programming.
Okay,
And it doesn't mean that Louisa's not doing in-person programming. She is.
no,
So it's just, it gives more options for people depending on where they're at,
Okay.
in their, so.
I get it. Everything's cool.
Okay, we'll keep that open for our next meeting for the legislative agenda. Moving on to any further discussion on that item, I should first. Okay. Moving on to item 7, consider action to be taken by the Community Resources and Tourism Committee. Approval of the extension Dunn County budget.
So I'll just kind of walk through the budget a little bit in terms of what this looks like. The line item increases that you see in the budget, a lot of those are out of our control. They're the IT-related expenses, phone-related expenses, internet, those types of things. So you'll see those increase across the board in all of the budgets as those prices increase and come back to the departments. Where the increase happens for us is really in the salary lines or in the contractual services. There's a 3% increase for all of our flat fees this year. And then for the staff that we pay 100%, there was obviously increases in salary and fringes in those. The contractual services line includes your co-funded positions. So those are the ones that you co-fund with UW-Madison Extension. Melissa's, you pay full salary and fringes for Melissa's position. There's a 0.4 position that you agreed to last year that supports 4-H year-round, and then we have a summer intern. So those are the expense increases that you see in this year's budget. We did not, in fact, I think there's a 1 or 2 lines that we decreased a little bit. Operationally, I think we're sitting really good. I think I don't foresee a need. I worked with the educators on this budget. And so really, we're just looking for that increase in fringes and salaries and flat fee increases, which is a little bit out of our control.
I got one question on that consultables. I mean, it says increase due to staffing increase. So you're increasing employees?
No. I'm
it's-
sorry, that's misleading.
Yeah. and
Yeah,
budget decreases.
staffing,
Yeah.
yeah, staffing increase in terms of the salary and fringes.
But that comes around 19,904. That's your whole increase in the budget, right?
That's the increase in the budget. That's correct.
Anybody got any questions? Beata's here also if you got any questions for her. I mean, she did go through it with me a little bit earlier, but if you have any questions for her?
This might be a Beata question. So so I'm looking at the budget.
You're on the blue sheet.
Yeah, I'm on the blue sheet.
Yeah, so that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, got it. Understood. So my question is, like, looking at the financials for the past couple of years, so 2020, the actuals, 2022 and 2023, right? I see that we came in under budget, which is good, right? And so in 2022, we came in, it looked like it was about 10% under budget. Again, hooray, good, like that. 2023, we were about 15% under budget. My question is, like, where can I see the breakdown of like what was the savings that worked out? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. So there, in addition to this report, there is a detailed report.
Okay.
So, it's available for you.
Okay.
You would need to ask the whose is it? UW Extension to
Yeah.
provide you one,
Oh, okay.
but
Yep.
they do have access to that. So I can walk them through where to find it. And,
might need to.
right, it's there, so I can walk them through. Are there specific, I wouldn't be able to answer your questions
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Where is it? Is it in,
I
wages?
could probably
or-
answer that for you. Honestly, it's usually in the contractual services line with open positions. So the
Oh.
last few years, so Garrett's position was open for about 4 or 5 months. So you'll see, so you only get charged for the actuals of when your educators are hired. So if there is a vacancy, then we don't charge you for that period of time.
That
And
makes sense.
Yep, and so so that'll come back to you in terms of, so you get billed twice on the contract. So, the contract that's signed, you get billed twice through the year, and those are actual numbers that comes through. And so the other piece of it as well in our budget is that for the support position, not full fringe and benefits are taken on that, but we keep that in the budget in case that changes. And that's a financial from the finance office. So we see a savings is there as well.
Okay.
So
Because but their budget is really dependent on the levy.
Mhm.
So if there are less expenses, then that would be savings,
Okay.
not needing that levy.
yeah, we give that right back to the levy. Mhm.
So that just goes back to general fund then?
Yes.
Okay.
Right, correct.
All right. Thanks. I was just
Yeah.
curious.
No, that's a great
Excellent
question.
Question.
A lot of
didn't know.
times people think that's like, well, you should be able to, cut expenses, which is what I look at as well. So I look at those trends when we put together the budget. But when we see that because of cost savings with people not being in positions,
Mhm.
it's hard to manage those trends a little bit.
Yeah, it's something you can't necessarily predict. So,
Correct. Yeah, so we give it the best shot. So,
And during the budget process, we asked all the departments head to budget based on their need to continue operations. So that would reflect, like, as she noted, even though position might be vacant, but if it's filled or if there's staff turnover, that would budget accordingly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Excellent question.
I got another question. I had your state grants decrease. I don't know why they should, but they do. Is the county expected to pick up the difference?
I can speak to that. So our carry forward that was approved earlier in the year got added into the state grants that's in our current budget. It should not have been added into that. We are only allowed, oh goodness, where'd that go? We are only allowed to spend $1,957 a year on our postage expenses. So that 2197 is an incorrect number. It should be the same 1957. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Any other questions? Sure, Bretta. Bretta.
Yes, go back to the comment, what's in that column that's not colored. So it is what's in our financial system. So that includes your carry forward. So it is correct based on what's been entered, which is your carry forward. So if you compare side by side to what you're budgeting versus what it was in 24, is that the one?
so under the postage.
Yeah,
So did we carry forward $1,000?
we carried forward, it was like 200 something.
Right. So what's in column 20 in that 23 budget column? This just indicates what's in our financial system now, including any carry forwards or budget adjustments if there were any. So sometimes when you are comparing what you budget, what you're asking for 25 to the next column to that, just be mindful that those could include carry forwards that might not necessarily have them in 25. But, I appreciate asking that question because that just suggests process improvement in these workbooks is maybe it would be appropriate to segregate these so that they know what was carried forward and what was actually adapted as a budget from the very beginning to kind of avoid some of that confusion. So thank you.
Yeah, because now it looks like you got grants or decrease from the state, which actually it wasn't a carryover.
Right. I do that on the financial side. On the financial side, I try to show you what that carry forward was based to what was adapted budget. But thank you. I appreciate being at this meeting and inviting me over to speak to the budget because that's just something we can improve in.
Thank you.
Even for round 2.
Yeah, I feel like having some sort of written narrative explanation of these things that's just right in with the budget documents. Like, I think I saw there was some sort of little memo, and maybe it was in the district attorney's
Yes, they-
folder, just explaining things, and like seeing that kind of thing is really helpful for someone like me. So,
Oh, thank you.
I would also I just point out, as some of you are in other committees, this is an easy one. That all of the salary and fringe lives inside of contracting and consulting because we pay UW-Madison for all of their salaries, and so then you don't see that. You see one number. When you see that for other departments, salary and fringe is spread through about 20 different rows in there, which is, your hours and your vacation and your health benefits and all of those different things. So just kind of keep that in mind as you look at it, that salary and fringe looks a little different in other departments.
Any further questions? Right, we have a approval from Tom. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next meeting is Tuesday, September 17th at 4:30, right here in this room, 54. Any announcements from anybody? Motion to adjourn, vote adjourned.